Football. 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 Hello and welcome one and all to the show that is all ball and absolutely loving the top three drama in the Premier League. It's the Football Ball Podcast. I'm Zach, your host, Mr. Stateside, and today we are diving into the world's most popular sport and its most popular and competitive league. Behind a black curtain, as you will. Just will be audio this time, but we're not going to just look at the table, and we're going to look at the souls of these clubs. We've got a new look top three that features a certain team from Birmingham that wasn't invited to the party in August, and I know Arsenal fans aren't happy to see. And we're also going to talk about Arsenal's mental block. Is it a jitter, or is it something similar to previous seasons? Finally, the big picture. We'll be looking into our crystal ball and also seeing how we did previously on our top players that we believe going into this 25 and 26 season before we again look ahead and discuss our Champions League champions, for lack of a better word, and our World Cup champions as well. Today, I've got Daniel with me. No cuz here, but we'll try to mention at least one Man United player. Daniel, how we doing?
Doing great. Great intro, a lot of good energy, and a really eventful week. Just finished the final Champions League match day, so I think
that was fun.
Our minds are all focused in on the sport at this time of the year. So excited to keep that energy going as the season continues.
Yeah, and we'll get into Champions League later. It was midweek madness or final day madness. I don't know what Jamie Carragher coined it on Paramount, but it was a lot of fun, including even a goalie score header off a set piece. Wasn't Arsenal either. It was a Portuguese team, and that put them into the knockout. So great to see there.
Unbelievable finish.
Unbelievable. So take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll take a look at the top three, a little bit at the relegation teams, and we'll jump into how our top three players we projected looked this year, and finally look ahead to Champions League World Cup. Be right back after this. All right. Welcome back to the Football Ball Podcast. Still got Daniel here with me. Let's take a look at the top three. I called it a new look top three, really just because Aston Villa's there. We don't really want to mention Man United as much, but I said I would do it because they are creeping up there. They did beat the league leaders in Arsenal with 50 points, Man City 46, and Aston Villa 46, just 4 behind them. So, Daniel, let's start off with you. We don't need to hear any more from an Arsenal fan. What are we thinking about the league leaders at this point of the season?
As a non-Arsenal fan, no surprise still to see them at the top of the table. One, it does tend to have been a team that has always gotten their points earlier in the year, the last few seasons, before having a difficult finish to the home stretch, allowing other teams to pass them at that point, I think. But the other reason it's no surprise is just the depth of the team that they have currently. I mean, it's impossible to, I think, view any other team in the world having their level of talent at every position, multiple players deep, and the ability to continue to roll with injuries sustained, necessary formational changes, playing whatever system they want at the moment. Just from a personnel standpoint, I think that was the one thing that always stood out about their ability to maybe finally do it this year and get that Premier League title once more. So no surprise to see Arsenal there. But as you mentioned, Aston Villa, a little bit of that surprise one, always kind of really seemed to be more success from Emery in the European competitions. But hard to argue their place if you look at some of the big games in particular that they've performed really well in.
You have to think Emery takes it personally. Some of these Arsenal Aston Villa games seem personal to him. I'm sure that he doesn't like seeing Mikel Arteta replace him, fellow Spaniard, and he's done a lot. Just briefly to get into XG, Aston Villa, third in the league, not just behind, 16 goals behind Manchester City in the table, tied on 46 points. They both, Aston Villa and Man City, have over 30 expected goals, right?
Mentioned that Emery looks like a vampire.
Yeah, no, thanks. Emery does look like a vampire, and just looking at these not expected goals, expected goals on the whole, Arsenal, Man City 43 to Aston Villa's 33. Aston Villa's had some great final minute wins. I mean, that's the DNA of a champion. It's also the DNA of a very, very much a danger team that can wreck the title race. what stands apart, I would say, with Arsenal, right? Like, let's just put aside the fact that everything you said was absolutely true, as far as getting their points early, floundering late. Reminds me of a certain Dallas American football team that can't really seem to close the door sometimes, especially when we get to the playoffs, which in the Premier League is coming up soon in the regular season, those final 10 or so games. But Arsenal, if we're going to give them credit, and they're tough to watch. We talked about it offline. They can be tough to watch. They're not the beautiful, flowing Arsenal teams of past always, right? They have their games normally when they play Tottenham or in the Champions League. But if we're watching the Premier League, they are relying on their defense. And their defense, their expected goals against are just 17. If we're looking at Man City and Aston Villa, they both have 30 and 31 expected goals against. So this defense is showing up, but it's almost at the cost of the offense. And that could, in some corners, be interpreted as bottling, as the Brits would say, where when they get in front of goal, they can't seem to close because of that pressure from previous seasons not being able to close it out. We'll get into our predictions for now, but Arsenal, top of the table, 4 points clear, still a stellar defense, still a stellar goalie in Raya, but it's going to be Trossard that's going to take us to the promised land, maybe. And there I go, betraying my allegiances to Arsenal. So anyways, let's move on at that point. Man City, if you could find a ticket for Man City plus 600 to win the Premier League right now, Daniel, what would you do with that?
I would easily avoid it. It is just a situation where I think, man, like this year in particular, it's really hard to know what version of Man City, that you'll get. And it just feels like a club that has made this gradual, slow deterioration from world robotic superpower that could just destroy every single opponent they faced a few years ago in the season of winning multiple titles to now becoming this team that has had to, in a way, almost betray their own philosophy in terms of some of the possession style that Pep has employed in the past and has led him to that success, now becoming almost reliant at times on a direct approach of a physically elite striker to have their success. And it's just been a weird decline to see. But at the same time, it's a team that has invested a ton of money on their best games, can still have elite moments where they have the world's best goal scorer and they have elite passing midfielders with almost in an Arsenal sense style defenders that are just almost in a way now all center backs, very risk
Top
adverse,
notch.
very comfortable on the ball, better is an aerial presence. I think just the one area they falter is the athleticism and experience of those defenders is not quite to the level of Arsenal. I think the experience proportion in particular has been really showing lately for that Man City defense in a way that just puts so much pressure on their attack to score, which then inevitably seems to funnel down to this pressure on Holland alone to score. And
Yeah,
now
for
it
sure.
starts to feel as this player who is already achieving incredible FIFA World 11 type numbers is now like oddly being blamed in a way if the team doesn't win.
Yeah, and I think no, definitely not. And this is something where I think you've nailed it. They're missing some of that experience. Some of it, yeah, they lost probably one of the greatest midfielders of his era, Kevin De Bruyne, right? They've lost, so many great wingers over the year. David Silva, I mean, that's way back, but even just looking at their current injury history, right? So you lose your main playmaker, and just like we've seen with other teams losing not only their playmakers maybe, but also their lead defenders. Man City's losing Stones. It's crazy to say, Stones, nationally capped player, been a part of a lot of trophies and a lot of championships and a lot of tough games. Ruben Diaz, Gvardiol, they're missing these cornerstone defensive players that allow them to play in a creative way that I think they want to, and like you said, Pep wants to, but maybe he's had to sell his soul a little bit to stay in this race, playing a more practical side. And also on top of that, you know, I think the writing was on the wall. We may have even called it out when this happened in an earlier podcast, but Donnarumma It's not a player known for his footwork. We're not building from the back anymore. That is gone, right? We're going to put, athletic, young defensive players, hope they can hold up, and then, bomb the ball over to Holland. And it may just work. If any of these defensive players come back, and we've already talked about Arsenal getting tighter and tighter and tighter as the season goes on, Man City, you could definitely see them getting probably in a in almost like an American football way, having a coach like Kyle Shanahan willing his team far into the playoffs, even though through all these injuries and through all these, these missteps and electrical currents, that's a joke. But he's able to get a high win record even with diminished personnel because of what he believes, the template of his beliefs in sports. So not counting them out, great points. And we'll see. I know Arsenal fans and Aston Villa fans are hoping they can't do it again. And speaking of Aston Villa, yeah, go for it. Oh, yeah, you're a goalie coach. I would expect nothing less. Yeah. Matt Hart? Was it Hart? Joe Hart. Yeah. Proven champion. Yeah. Yeah. Great points. Great points. Thanks for bringing it back to Joe Hart. Obviously, I hadn't thought about him in a while because I didn't know his name. All right, let's move on to Aston Villa, the new kid on the block. We've seen some not even hints, some outright claims to them being a top three team. Of course, they were in the Champions League last year after their fantastic performance in the year prior to that. So I think I was hoping I could bury this team 3 games in, when I believe they were winless, when I believe their offense was looking extremely poor, when I believed that they believed Sancho was an actual legitimate option for their offense and someone that could take their team to the next level. I mean, get rid of Ratchford, bring in Sancho. I would just check to make sure there aren't any Man United plants in that back office. But Aston Villa has proven that they are a team that is gutsy, that resembles the spirit of their coach, that like a vampire will try to suck you dry and steal those points, whether it's 1 or 3 from you at the end of games. And they find themselves tied with Manchester City, 4 behind Arsenal, who Arsenal is probably happy they've played Aston Villa 1-1, lost one, and moving on with that. I would say this is a team that I am probably most worried about outside of some other traditional competitors. I don't know about Man United. I don't know about Chelsea. I could still see Liverpool if somehow the wheels fall off these 3 teams sneaking back into the conversation. And of course, we talked about Man City, but Aston Villa has some firepower. They've got some grit. I think they have maybe a less condensed schedule. And I don't know, Daniel, what do you think? This team has been really impressive this year and fun to watch. Yeah, insane. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Just playing devil's advocate here. They don't really face like a heavy competition until March. So they do have a run up where if they have this chip on their shoulder and this nobody believes in us mentality, and they put another string of wins together, I could see them being in a situation where they beat Brentford and they're perfect through February, and they could be realistically at the top of the table and then have to deal with their own bottle problems. But ultimately, I think that was prescient saying it's a thin team. They haven't given them a lot of options this year outside of ones like Sancho, right? I think they need a little more depth to challenge, and an injury could derail them, especially if they lose their World Cup winning goalkeeper, God forbid. So, all right, Daniel, I'll put you to the question because I'm a coward and you're going to have to go first. Before we go to break, let's make our predictions for who's going to win the league. And you can feel free to troll me. You can feel free to troll Lyndon, who's not here, because I know that would make me laugh. But what do you think? Who's going to come away with the Premier League title? Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, there's no way they lose to Fulham, right? It's impossible. All right. Wow. I love the Man United case, gotta say. And wow, wouldn't it be something if Man United did win every game from here on out and somehow won the Premier League? It would almost feel like the Patriots being back in the Super Bowl. It would be that level of PTSD, I think. For me, man, and I know there's not a lot of listeners to this, but the few that are would probably be friends, family, and Arsenal fans from my supporters group. So it almost pains me to say this, but I don't think Arsenal has the mentality to win in the Premier League due to the overall collective pressure that they feel when it comes to this competition. Um, I could be proven wrong by performances in the Carabao Cup. That has more of a convincing ring to me than the Champions League, which seems apart from the Premier League and the history and the pressure, even. It seems like icing on the cake almost, which is strange to say as a team that's never won anything except for like a Champions Winter Cup. Back before there was even a European Cup or a Champions League. So I hate to say it, but to me, this team has been moving backward for a while. The defense has been bailing it out, and especially the goalkeeping. So it's disgusting, but I don't. I don't think that there's anyone more equipped to take advantage of this than Pep Guardiola financially as a joke, but in all seriousness, kind of like foreshadowed a little bit, if they even get back some of these players that they're missing, on top of Rodri, who's getting better and better. And yeah, maybe he's frustrated, got a red card, watched too many Chelsea games, but I can see this team really gaining steam. I am scared to death of Erling Haaland and what he could do in a Man U game, right? Which he looks horrible, but much less an Arsenal game where I could see him doing a lotus pose in a corner after scoring a hat trick in 5 minutes. So my pick is Man City. It is painful. I think Arsenal does get a trophy this year, but I don't think they get the Premier League title because they've relied on Owen goal and defense, and it's tough. It's tough to even say. So on that sad note, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess. I guess. I don't think so, but yeah. Maybe Yorkes, or how they pronounce it, I'm not sure, but Portuguese league? Yeah, yeah. And Man City. Did he? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's gotta be one of the more exciting title races, and that's really a product of Arsenal being in first as always, but on top of that, just because it's condensed, and there are people that are Man United fans that have seen faltering and have 0 faith in their ownership, and then they see something, hey, not too far from Arteta, right? Let's put a handsome guy and a pea coat that used to play for the team in the midfield, and maybe he's associated with some success or some handoff from a previous generational coach like Sir Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger. So they're getting that feel good. They're getting that nitrous hit. But they, to your point, can at least remember the good times when they were the dominant force, right? So I appreciate your insight. I would say you didn't take a psychology degree, so stay out of my effing brain. But regardless, I know it's all from a good place, and it is something that lingers, obviously, for Arsenal fans losing by a point, right? The red cards, all the excuses you can think of, but from the outside looking in, it looks like a very sound team with a cohesive identity and maybe a little bit of a chip on their shoulder where people are doubting them and saying, "Oh, same old Arsenal. Oh, this Man United team came in and won, a 3-2 with two wonder goals," and they believe that saved, not only their season but their future. So, touche, and I hope I'm proven wrong. All right. That's for the first half of the Football Ball podcast. Stay tuned. We're going to go and look over our top threes. As far as player goes, we're done with teams for now. Players coming up. Let's see how we projected our players, who's actually top three statistical performers in this season. Well, then we'll finally touch on a little bit of relegation, a little bit of Champions League, and a little bit of World Cup, because I think we actually have an opportunity with this World Cup coming up and this expanded format to really have a lot of fun with the teams that are going to be in, because we know parities in soccer. We know there could be some major upsets coming. We'll be right back on the Football Ball podcast. All right. All right, welcome back to the Football Ball Podcast. It's Zach, a.k.a. Mr. Stateside, Mr. Boycotted Stateside, hopefully not for the World Cup, but still here with Daniel, our resident football coach from the great state of Texas. Always a pleasure to be here with you. We had our podcast where we kind of gave our top three players that we thought we'd really want in this season. Not only want them, but also thought that they were performing at the highest level. Some of them absolutely on target, right? Erling Haaland. Even Slobozlai, I would say that to call out a positive Liverpool player. Van Dijk, maybe not as much. He's had some great moments. Obviously, he's shown some great leadership, getting through some major tumults, obviously, with the death of a teammate on top of a huge roster overhaul. So maybe we'll give Van Dijk like the honorary. He's playing well just because he means so much to the team and he can still knock one in. But maybe not a top three player, even in that capacity. But just looking back on who we thought were top three players, um, in this moment, who would you keep in that list? Yep. It was versatile. Yeah. Yeah, and it was crazy because it seemed like for the first time in a long time, Liverpool really reached out and tried to make a big splash and bring in a lot of talent and a lot of big names, and in turn pay off even some of their current big name talents. Even knowing, by history that some of these weren't going to pay off, and much less like Salah maybe wasn't going to play like the best player in the Premier League again. And imagine if he was playing that well, right? I would think, easily be in first place and way above, even the current league leaders. They probably have more than 56 points, but I digress. Even last year, it wasn't an impressive victory, but I bring that up just to say that this is a guy that you're bringing up that doesn't really pop on the stat sheet when you look at XGs or assists or whatnot, but you see his control, his versatility, his pass percentage being at 91, 92% in Premier League and Champions League, his ruthlessness on free kicks. We've seen it in the Champions League as well as the Premier League. So I agree with you. Is he top three? I'm not sure, but if you couple it with kind of the failures of the old guard as well as the new transfers, I think that without him, this team would be in big trouble. All right, let's move on though. We talked about Erling Haaland. We talked about Szoboszlai. I think that we threw some other players in there, like James Milner. Honestly, a legend in his own right, a guy that is on a team that is successful and that has played valuable minutes. I'm sure is almost like a Jackie Moon type character in the locker room, right? But I have to kind of at least give you a couple minutes to talk about this. Daniel, how are we feeling about our spirit animal, James Milner? Check in. Wait, you weren't watching it every minute, all the minutes? Brighton looks great in the kit still. He's doing great. Yeah, no doubt. He's going to play another 5 years, right? If LeBron James could get away with playing 8 minutes in a game, he'd be playing until he's 60, and that used to happen back in the 19th century. Maybe we'll see some of that kind of sportsmanship from James Milner. Love to see it. There's always a record to be broken. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Would they respect the veteran minimum for him? I think so. Just out of like pure, biography. So, all right. Um, let's talk about another one that kind of goes under the radar here, that I would like to add into the top three. I talked about him some in my early pods as far as the season goes. We both, I know that Daniel and I both respect Brentford. It's an admirable club in a lot of ways. They've overperformed for a long time, and they have a man, Igor Thiago, a Brazilian. They're everywhere. I don't want to use the term dime a dozen, but I feel like Brazil is having a moment right before the World Cup's coming up. It's going to be a huge decision for their leadership over there? Are they going to take the old guard, the players that may be flaming out on Real Madrid, or maybe find a new fire, still play the top level? Or are they going to take some of the lesser known Brazilians that have really, I think they really just are having a possibility to getting to that Neymar level of popularity. There's just something about Brazilian players, right? Gabby Jesus, I'll call him up every time. But I digress. I don't want to get too far into the Brazilian folklore here, because Gabby, I don't also want to jinx him. Keep on scoring, buddy. Jesus for life. But Igor Thiago, all right, that was kind of a long segue to get to this guy who is absolutely tearing up the Premier League. He's had 16 goals on 13 XG. He's had 1 assist, which honestly is even more impressive. I'm not upset. You take all of those goals, and I think that this is a reason that Brentford has been overperforming, a reason that Brentford has a lot of scare potential. I think Brentford even bought another Brazilian recently on the transfer portal as well. So it's never a bad idea to have a system based around Brazilians too. I guess is what I'm getting at as well. Arsenal's tastes a little bit of that. Chelsea's going underneath that in their own way, maybe having an Argentinian too many. But I would like to put Igor Thiago into the top three. If nothing else, goals always make money, bar none. So I don't know your thoughts on that. You don't have to have any, but I'll open up the floor to you, Daniel. Oh no. Oh, total 90. I'm here for it. Oh, and I hope he performs this weekend. This Sunday, Aston Villa, Brentford. I know who I'm going for. If Brentford wins it, just like Leicester did over Arsenal, as my dog is telling me he needs to go out. If Brentford wins it, if they take it over Man City, Arsenal, whoever else, hey, that's just another great Cinderella story, and I'm all here for it. All right, I'm going to open up the floor to you. In the honor of Linden, I would say Man United has had a few standout players, especially on offense. Mbuemo, Cunha, we've seen that even in the last game with two absolutely fantastically played goals. But you can choose Man United. You can choose another team. Is there any other player that you want to call out that you think deserves to be in the top three? A player that you would take, bar none, right? Your third pick in the fantasy football English version draft, and Holland's taken, right? Thiago, up and comer, taken. Maybe you have that pick. Who would you take? Damn, he did it. Yeah, two great choices. I think two talisman of the team. Maybe Declan's not the captain; he's a spiritual captain for a lot of Arsenal fans, a lot of probably English fans as well, and then yeah, for sure. And then Bruno, we know, is that consistent rock, right? Other fans hate him. Man United fans love him because he brings in assists, he brings in calm, cool, and collected and very precise passing and finishing, on top of just absolute passion and love for Man United. So I think those are two great choices. Of course, I didn't mention either one of them, right? And I think that if Declan Rice was the playmaker, Bruno Fernandez, things would be looking very good in North London, not only for him, but also for Saka and Trossard and Madueke and maybe even Nwarni, right? Arsenal could definitely use some playmakers and some like at the cost of maybe the defensive prowess, maybe they would look into opening up more opportunities and being more subjective to the counterattack. So, which it turns out Man United could be too. So, two great calls there. Um, Okay, I know that we're kind of running long on time. Real quick though, I know that you can predict who I would say just because this is your wheelhouse, I'll bring it up. Who I would say would be my keeper that I would go with. It's the keeper of the year so far. It's David Raya. David Raya, like he is, I think at this point, 11 clean sheets. He's leading the Gold Glove, and this would be the third year in a row. But there's some great ones. I don't want to name any Tottenham ones. I don't want to name any Aston Villa ones. Man United, they've got someone there. There's been known to be some good Belgian goalkeepers throughout the years. Uh, do you have a goalkeeper that you wanted to call out real quick and talk about? Yeah. Hey, well said. Won't argue with you on that. I think that it's taken some worldies to beat him. Slobozlai, we saw two last week, the Man United game with the two Man United attackers that I called out earlier as well. Acuna and Mbuemo, absolutely just even with David Raya getting a touch on it, couldn't stop him. That's going to happen though, right? If we were playing FIFA and we had David Raya and we went to edit player, maybe we would give him another 2 inches, 3 inches, and even just. Hate to call it out, but Donnarumma, he won a Champions League. Almost had an undefeated season on his own in the French league. An absolute shot stopper and set piece team nightmare, as I'll call out. I would say that he's still up there. I know that sometimes he jumps over balls that go under his legs. That happens sometimes when you're a giant, but he's doing well. And I think David Raya, if he can pull it off, he'd be in the same category of player because the Italian national team, making World Cup aside, they can still pull off a Euro every once in a while. All right. Speaking of international, let's wrap this up with our final segment coming up. Okay. All right. Welcome back to the Football Ball Podcast. Zack and Daniel here, wrapping it up with some predictions. We'll start off with some relegation talk. We've got Wolves firmly in the basement. Burnley fighting at 15 points. That's 10 above Wolves. West Ham, 5 above them at 20. That's the bottom three right now. Just above them, we have Forest at 25, Leeds at 26, and Tottenham and Crystal Palace at 28. I'm going to say that Tottenham's going to pull this out. They're a top four team in Europe, apparently. So I think that's going to bear out eventually. And I do like their coach, Thomas Frank, specifically because he drinks out of Arsenal cups. So if I had to call out a relegation team, I would say, man, it's tough, right? I want to say Tottenham, which even blows up my own premise. But I'm going to go Pat. And I know it's cowardly. West Ham has Bowen. That's it. I don't trust that. I know it's sad. In Burnley, too, I would love to see them stay up. Wolves, it's a lost cause. Unfortunately, like Timu, wouldn't order from them, wouldn't buy anything from that squad specifically. So if I have to call it out, I think Forest is Dyke balling it up. I love watching Leeds United. And like I said, Tottenham's a top four team in Europe. So I'm going to go with West Ham, Burnley, Wolves going down. Daniel, what do you think? Any team outside of that you could see getting relegated? Maybe an American too. Come on. You like it? Yeah. Mateta needs to grow back the mustache and take an authority figure with Nketiah as his sidekick. I feel like that's the way forward for them, and I have faith in him. honestly. I love Mateta. I think that an embattled manager can kind of rally the troops, and make it happen. If for nothing else, financially. I mean, I'm sure they had some financial windfall last season with their performance, and there is going to be some pride there. But fair enough, honestly. If I feel like Nottingham Forest was in a similar situation, they had to change guard. I think Crystal Palace may be too cheap to even do that, which that's not a judgment. It's just a statement. All right, let's move on. Quick fire here for the end. We've got Champions League, we've got World Cup. Let's start off with Champions League. In the knockout phase, if we were going to rank the top four according to the league phase, it would be Arsenal 1, Bayern 2, Liverpool 3, Tottenham 4. So three teams in the Premier League in the top four in the European Championship League. That's also with Chelsea being not too far away. So if we had to choose a winner, you could probably safely say, if you were a betting person, with even Man City being eighth, that it would be an English team, right? I don't want to put you on the spot just yet, Daniel, so I'll go here for my Champions League winner. I do believe that this is going to be an English team. And I don't believe this is going to be a team that has ever won a Champions League before. I think that this is a team that, for some reason, it becomes the whole of its parts. It plays creatively. It plays effortlessly, almost too effortlessly sometimes, as far as Calafiori, Areze comes, with the counterattack being its greatest flaw. But if this team is allowed to play in possession, has Declan Rice playing in a prominent role, has Saka playing, has David Raya at full strength, as well as their pillars of defense in Saliba and Gabriel. I would say that this is a team that has everything they need to win this. They've been close. They lost to the championship winners in PSG by a slim margin, I would say. Donnarumma, thanks for the nightmares. But I'm seeing Kai Havertz play. I am seeing Yorkes play. I am seeing Martinelli playing like a Brazilian world beater. I think that this is something they don't have, that mental block. This is something where they can almost supersede the superstitions of the Premier League and say, hey, we're actually the best in Europe. We can play in this style and beat the teams that destroy their domestic leagues in some circumstances in Bayern and PSG, and Sporting and some others. But obviously, there's some landmines on the way. But if I had to pick it, that would be my team. I think that Arsenal will lift the Champions League trophy at the end of the year. Well, if you played Stoke on a rainy night, I mean, I don't know. It's different. It's a knockout tournament, so that's that's my rebuttal. Yeah. They're in a weird spot. Yeah, I agree with that actually. Club World Cup, yeah. think that's smart. I mean, even some of these dark horse teams, hey, you want to believe in Real Madrid, Inter Milan, that's the 10th and ninth seed respectively. Hey, even outside of that, Man City, Sporting, I don't really see that happening, but crazier things have happened. We'll see. It could come down to being in form, and it could come down to health, just as always with sports. All right. Finally, you bring up the German team in Bayern Munich. Some would say that is the training ground for the German national team to some respect, and to great recent success, even if the semifinals aren't good enough for Germans. Um, I'm not saying America things are going great over here, but man, I'd feel a lot better if even I made a quarterfinal, much less a semifinal of a World Cup, especially at home. So for the World Cup, let you start off with this one. Just throw it out there. We don't have, you can do the final if you want. Just off of vibes, I guess, at this point, because we are still a ways away and a European playoff away from knowing who's actually going to be in the World Cup finally. Who do you got, Daniel? Vive la France, or what are we thinking? Oh no. Love it. Oh no. Hey, fair enough. I just like that even in your hypothetical where the world boycotted the World Cup, Mexico did not make the final. So props to you. Really appreciate that. And honestly, fair enough. Reject the premise. It's way too far in advance. And even seeing a South American team beat France in a final, a Croatia team making a World Cup to lose to France in a final, a Netherlands team that I think we all loved, one that also beat Mexico, making it to a final to lose to the Spanish super giant. It's always fun because it seems like there is an opportunity for a team to sneak in there and make a statement. I mean, Uruguay is going to be playing, and they've actually won a World Cup, and they've now got a vampire playing on their team. So for me, though, in all seriousness, if I had to pick a winner for this World Cup, um, I do believe that there are a lot of teams in this hemisphere that could do it with the right circumstance. I believe there's a lot of teams in South America that could do it with the right circumstance. Argentina I think, has a really good setup to run it back, but it really does come down to your matchups as you go further on in the tournament, and there's always going to be surprises. To Daniel's point, so for me, I'm just gonna make the same prediction I do every World Cup, and it hasn't been very prescient lately, but we're still gonna roll with it. I'm gonna go with the German national team winning the World Cup. They are staying in Winston-Salem. They'll be smoking cigarettes. They'll be drinking half orange juice, half Budweiser, morning protein shakes. In all seriousness, though, I think this is a team that has a lot of talent. I think this is a team that still has one of the world's best goalkeepers, which is always a requirement, in my opinion, to win the World Cup. At least if you're going to have to face up with another superpower of a soccer team like France did with Argentina and some other examples. So For me, I think as far as for world tours, it's for Neuer. I think there's a lot of Germans on this national team that have a versatility. I know that they've played very poorly since winning their World Cup, at least as far as their own standards. So that's always a pitfall. Last World Cup was kind of a bummer as well. But again, that's my choice. German national team lifting another trophy in New Germany, aka America. Yeah, I love that. All right, Daniel. Hey, well, thanks for joining the Football Ball podcast. You're a trusted member of the Football Ball squad, and it's been fun over the last hour. Okay, that'll do it here for the Football Ball podcast. Thanks for tuning in. You can check us out. This one's audio only. If you've made it this far, God bless you. You wouldn't want to watch this whole time, but we're happy to have you. It's been an absolute blast. We can't wait to see how the season ends. I hope, Daniel, you're right, and this is just all psychosis. It's just ready to break, like the end of Shutter Island when I decide, wow, it really was a lie, and I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with this reality. Uh, Toodles, Daniel. Have a good one. Later.